Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to episode 72 of the On Air Advocate. We're at the On Air Advocate. We look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On Air Advocate, and I am super excited that you are here joining us this afternoon, or if you are catching this on the replay. Now, as always, if you think any of the content that we are talking about today could be relevant for anyone you know, please hit the share button and share the love. Now, as you guys know, for the last couple weeks, we have been in this super back to school series, and now all the kiddos, I hope all the kiddos, collegers are back to school. And so with that said, I'm super excited to have Dr. Lulu here wrapping up our back to school series. Dr. Lulu is a pediatrician, a speaker, a teen expert, the founder of Ask Dr. Lulu and Teen Alive. Her passion and mission is really to help children and teens that are battling depression, and she is here today to give us tons of tips on that. So welcome, Dr. Lulu.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, the On Air Advocate. This is such a thrill. I'm so excited. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here. And before we get started, because you have not been on the show before, I would love for you to just take a few moments to tell the audience a little bit more about yourself so they know your background a little bit.
Okay, so I'm a Niger American. That's the new name that I've given myself. So I'm Nigerian by birth, but American naturalized. So I'm a Niger American. I've been a doctor for coming on 30 years now, so 28 and some change. And I've been a pediatrician for about 25. So total, just about 30 years. I went to med school in Nigeria, finished in 90-something, and early 90-something, very early 90-something, do the math. And I came to Howard in Washington, D.C., where I had my residency, my pediatric residency program. And soon after that, I started my own private practice in Lancaster, South Carolina. Hey. And I did about 13 years of owning my own private practice. Then life happened, and I got divorced, whatever, sold the practice, and joined the Air Force. So I came in as a lieutenant colonel, where I was the commander over at Maxwell Air Force Base. What up, class Armstrong, class 1206. That was my team, my group, my buddies, my wingmen. So I was commander over there for a minute, and then I came on to Lackland Air Force Base.
Okay.
Antonio. I did my 4 years, served my time, loved it, was medical director towards the end of my stay there, loved it. And then it was time to go, to take off my boots and put on some high heels again. So right now I did 2 years, just shy of 2 years at community care health centers here in San Antonio. I loved it. Worked with the Indian population, spoke a lot of Spanish, got a lot of just enjoyed working there. However, while I was working there, I discovered that there's been a very high rate of patients coming in to see me that were depressed and having suicidal thoughts. Now, it didn't start there. It just kind of went 10x while I've been there. So when I was in private practice, I did have my very first suicide patient. He completed suicide. It was in 2008, July 4th. And then I've had a bunch of people just attempting suicide up and down. When I was active duty at Lackland, I had a lot of teenagers cutting and overdosing and hanging and all kinds of things you can think of. Luckily for us, the world, none of them completed suicide again. However, in the last few weeks, I had my taste of the youngest, which was an 8-year-old boy who not only tried to kill himself once, tried twice. So at that point, I'm like, okay, God, what are you trying to tell me? What's going on? And I only nailed it when I asked my colleague, another doctor in my office, so by the way, how many of these depressed teenagers do you see? And believe it or not, he said to me, and I quote, maybe two or three in a month, maybe. And I was like, what? I see 3 or 4 a day. And so that kind of put it in perspective for me. I was like, okay, maybe something is the universe is trying to tell me something. I got to listen before I end up in the belly of a fish, right? So I was like, okay, here I am, Lord, send me. But other than that, I'm married to my beautiful wife, Linda, and I have 3 rambunctious, 2 teenagers and 1 young adult sons, which I'm very
sons.
my ultimate work that I've done in this world has been to give birth to them and to raise them. So that's my joy. But other than that, my passion is these teenagers. We gotta get out there and talk to them and try to get them to refocus a little bit.
Right. And I was reading today. So today is actually World Suicide Prevention Day.
Are you kidding? For real? I should know that, right?
I did not know. I mean, I did a huge series on mental health a few weeks ago, and I know they're always changing the day and adding in other days and national days. But what it was talking about is, that suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. I mean, that's huge. That's huge. And for our teens, you're exactly right. As to what
actually, I was gonna say. I mean, we've had some notables, Hollywood stars. I mean, oh my God! Of course, Kate Spade. I don't know that she was Hollywood, but she was notoriety anyway. And of course, we know our beloved Anthony Bourdain. And there was a comedian, Mrs. Doubtfire. I never remember his name.
Oh, Robin Williams.
Robin Williams, and just a bunch of notables. However, we have to bring it down to regular people. Every day, regular people are doing this. And even doctors, it's an equal opportunity disease. Doctors, we're not doing too badly with our numbers. We're like at 400 a year, which is a lot of doctors if you look at it 10 years in. Okay, so it's out there. I'm really glad that you're talking about it. What I've noticed is most people don't want to talk about it. They want to hush it. They want to whisper. They don't want to really bite the bullet, but we got to put the name out there so we can take this thing out of it, The more you talk about it, the more people are like, yeah, well, I know so-and-so, or I know so-and-so, or whatever. And we have to stop with the tendency to, I don't want to use the word marginalize, but we're almost like the people who say that they're depressed, or, people that come out and actually say that they are, we look at them kind of funny. Like, really? What's wrong with you? So that kind of makes them feel even worse to talk about it. Right.
There was an article that the Mighty did, and it said it's okay to not be okay. And it was an article all about that in our world today.
I'm going to write that down. I love it. I love it.
That it's okay to not be okay. Yeah. And to really embrace the fact that, we all go through struggles and trials and tribulations. And if in our school systems and in our workplaces, this would become more commonplace for us to talk about, that would bring the suicide rate down. I know that some schools, New York has implemented a new program, a mental health series kind of into their curriculum that they have. And I know other schools are looking at that. I know here in Wisconsin, at our Children's Hospital of Wisconsin, they are making for our Care in the Community conference this year, which is at the end of the month. It is going to be focused on bullying and mental health. And so that's huge.
I need to get on that list. I need to get myself on there. So we got to talk offline. I got to get myself on there.
But so I mean, when I saw your mission and all that you've done with, Teens Alive and your other shows that you've been on, just so inspired of all of the information and knowledge that you're giving back. And so today I really wanted you to share with parents that are listening, maybe teachers, facilitators. What are some of those signs and symptoms, that you see in kiddos or in tweens and teens that are battling, where we can really start to identify that more clearly, so that we can get the help that's needed there?
Yes. So the first thing is expect no signs at all. I think if we're prepared for the fact that your child who is depressed may actually have or they might have a sign, of course, but you might just miss it. So it's easy to just assume that you may not notice any signs. Okay, so can we all agree on that, on the fact that a lot of times there's no sign? However, I'm glad you mentioned the bigger community, because it does take a village. We're all members of that village. It takes to raise one child. I missed depression in my son. I knew he was bullied, but I didn't quite note that he was depressed. And naturally, it may not just have been the bullying that was the underlying factor for any one child. There are multiple reasons. But I missed it. Even me, I missed it. So anyone It can happen to anybody and you can miss it. However, for those, I guess, teachers, you generally are very in tune with their pupils. So for those out there who will pick it, that's amazing. Say something, say something. So the first sign is you might not notice anything. The second sign is, of course, sadness. The child is sad. Usually if it lasts more than 2 weeks, consistently just being sad and not being able to shake it, a lot of times that's the earliest sign of depression. A sadness that's just not budging. And then the child might become withdrawn. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, little Johnny, and I always say Johnny is no one. Johnny is just John Smith, okay? So little Johnny, who used to love to play soccer or play basketball and hang out with his friends Cody and Bryant, they just, all of a sudden, he doesn't want to, oh no, I don't want to do that today. Or you know what, I think I'm going to drop out of baseball. But you love baseball, Johnny. But I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. And of course, talking about baseball, yes, if they're good in sports or they used to be really active in sports, they might start just not doing well. And the coach might have concerns. So the coach is another person that might pick it. Maybe his game is just not as good as he used to. Another thing is the child who was doing great in school, great, maybe straight A's, academically, gifted and talented or whatever, or even maybe just an average student starts having failing grades to the point that the child is now considering dropping out of school if they don't already even drop out of school, So depression can be one of the signs of that. One of my favorites, one of the reasons that they come to see me a lot, because most kids would not come to see the doctor, oh, I think my child is depressed. Hardly ever. But one thing that the mothers bring them to me for, you want to know what it is? Somatization, a big word for lots of little symptoms. Very common the weekdays when they have to go to school, usually, but also on the weekends. I have a headache, my stomach hurts, and we've done everything and the stomach pain is still there, something like that. Or we've done some tests for that leg pain that the kid's been having for like a month now, and it's just not there. It's just not getting any better. We couldn't find anything, and yet the leg pain persists. Now, I'm not saying that there's no leg pain that can be caused by bigger things. Please don't get me wrong. I'm saying when a child consistently can jump and jive with that leg, but then when it's time to go to school,
Right. Signs that there could be some possible bullying.
That could be, exactly. And that's what I was going to go. Exactly. I was going to go there next. There might be bullying, and the bullying might be happening at school or at church. We can bring in sexual molestation. And I'm not trying to put down priests at all, but I use the word church because it's in the news right now. And I'm Catholic. Right. So it's easy bait for me. But if the child is being molested by a favorite uncle, an aunt, a teacher, a coach, and all of a sudden, they just don't want to do that anymore. They just, I don't want to do that anymore. Now, that being said, another group of people who are very prone to depression are the kids that stand out. Like maybe a child who has, Tourette's syndrome, for instance.
Right.
He doesn't really like the fact that he stutters, for instance. He doesn't really like the fact that people pick on him because maybe he's the only redhead in the class. He stands out for some reason, okay? Or he might be chronically ill. He might have, let's put it out there, cancer. He might have, ADHD.
Right.
Something that he didn't really cause for himself, but makes him stand out. That could cause him to be bullied, but that could definitely also, kind of down spiral to being depressed. So a lot of things. What if you have a family history of depression? You as the mother, you have depression. You've been treated for it. Maybe you're not taking medications, or maybe you are taking medications, or maybe your husband, he has signs that all is not well. He might be bipolar. Well, what am I saying? I'm saying, in essence, your child, who is a product of you and him, could also have that. So parents, be aware that just because you have depression doesn't mean your child cannot have it. Your child
is there any genetic link? I don't mean to interrupt you. Is there a genetic link for some, like if mental illness runs in your family, what is the percentage of that? Is that at a very, high rate that if your family members or multiple family members had mental illness, there is a chance for you as well?
There's definitely
kind of going off of it a little bit.
There's definitely a high rate of it. And you know what? Common things are always commoner. If you tell me that you have depression, your sister has depression, your mom has depression, come on. Your daughter has depression. Now, I'm not saying that that's why they came in, but that's one of the reasons that we look for you. So you know what, Mom? Any family history of depression? I mean, that's part of the questions that we ask them anyway when they come in for this, that, and the other. So, Mom, do you have, is there a family history of mental illness? You may not want to call it depression yet. So you know what? Yes, my sister has it. My brother has it. My cousin Pookie has it. Okay, so ma'am, what about you? Well, I haven't been diagnosed, is what they say. Okay, just because you haven't been diagnosed doesn't mean you don't have the symptoms. So definitely there's a very high correlation with family history and the child also presenting, and maybe even presenting at a much younger age. So one thing I do say in the African American community, and definitely as a Nigerian, we always kind of brush it off. Oh no, that's not my family. Oh no, that's from the devil. Yes, I hear you, but I'm a realist, I'm a scientist, and I'm a mother. So I will look for that. You can pray it off, you can pray it away. That's always a good thing. Pray for strength to deal with it. But please, first and foremost, accept the diagnosis. 9 times out of 10, the doctor is not going to just tell you something just to be telling you something. And when they do tell you, accept the diagnosis. Because if you can't accept it, then I can't even help your child. You're going to go and you never come back,
Right. Right. And I know that in talking to Dr. Maria Pierre, me and her have talked quite a bit, and she shared a lot with your different also ethnic backgrounds as to the way you have been raised, like you were just talking about. Sometimes within our heritage, it is throwing on that, you need to pray about it, or you need to, feel one way or another about it, or only these, sorts of people have this. And so
these people never get it.
Right. And sometimes that leads to people not coming forward and families not coming forward and seeking help because they're supposed to be able to handle it with a higher power and take care of it that way. So she has shared that with me quite a bit.
And there's one thing that we don't want to do. One of my videos talks about this. One thing you don't want to do is brush it off. Oh, child, hush. Oh, hush, child. That doesn't happen to our family. That's for our neighbors. Oh, hush. We're not the race that it happens to. That's for the other race. Or who do you know that's had that kind of problem before? I don't want to hear you talk about it again. And you know what you just missed? You've missed the one single opportunity that child is going to come to you with that concern. And next thing they're going to do, they're going to get it outside. They're going to get it outside. And that's what you don't want. So yes, absolutely. Ethnic backgrounds, yes, that is true. That's a big, big thing. And that's why one of the things I'm doing is trying to talk about it. Take it from the closet, take it from the attic, take it from the underneath the table, put it on the dinner table. Let's talk about it. One thing you could do is actually just kind of broach the topic. So do you know any kids that have been depressed? I mean, any kids that have been bullied? I mean, do you think you kind of bring it out? You would know your child, you know how to communicate with your child. But the funny thing, I just spoke to my kid's school, my son's school this morning. I went to his middle school, and the counselor told me that, oh yes, we would love for you to come and talk to our kids, but we don't want you to actually mention the word suicide. She said that to me. So we don't really want to say the word suicide. We can kind of go around it. How do I go around it? But I'm going to try my best, because at least I'd rather get there and at least be there and talk about it. And maybe one of the kids will bring it up, but you can be sure I'm going to talk around it. I'll do my best. But that's one of the things I'm talking about. People don't want to talk about it per se, when they kind of go, well, he's not feeling too well. Well, we don't really know if he's depressed or not. Oh, we're not sure. The doctor said he's depressed. You know what I mean? They use words like that. The doctor said she's depressed. The doctor tried to tell me that.
Because there's some type of, for some reason in our world, there's this stigma, there's this embarrassment by the fact, and that's where I go back to that article that I love, that I'm like, it's okay to not be okay. No one's, but if the world, I feel like the world feels like the world is passing judgment. And we need to stomp that out. I mean, that's what we need to get rid of.
And it's a tendency for everyone, for humans, to always want to put their best face forward.
Right.
Like, before we started, what happened with the real drama with the makeup and trying, I got to look good.
Right.
But really, you're good enough. But who thinks that? And with this era of social media, and we didn't even mention that as one of the causes of depression and anxiety and major, major bullying, cyberbullying, all of that can drive all the kids to just start, looking for other things and other ways to replace joy, or other ways to find joy, other ways to exist, because everyone is going to the left. So I have to go to the left. Oh my God, I cannot be different. But you know what? We are similar enough, but also our difference is what makes us unique, right? I mean, look at the fingers on one hand. None of them is the same. None of them looks the same, right? So we have to just learn to embrace our differences and embrace our uniqueness. This particular thing that I'm doing now, you cannot imagine how many people are like, have you lost your mind? Are you crazy? What, you're a doctor now, you want to become a counselor? And I was like, no, if I have to explain it to you, then you've missed the point. But then again, your patients are not coming to you almost on a daily basis, depressed and cutting. I feel I have to say something. I have to at least give it my best shot.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for having me. I'm just having a blast. I hope you can tell.
Yes. And now, so can you speak to that a little bit? And I know in the future we may do another show on it, but when we talk about children and teens, and like you spoke about how concentrated it is now with children and teens being on social media, everyone, I mean, kids have phones when they're like 8 years old, you know? And so that's part of their life. And even in school, I mean, they're not even teaching cursive anymore. Everything is done.
That? Yes, because everyone can type. That is so true.
It's all on the, it's all on the computer. Yeah. So that's what they are being driven to day and night. They're at school, they're on the computer. They're at home, they're on the computer. When you're on video games aren't as fun unless you're on live, where you have people that can talk to you, and then there can be bullying that way. So what have you seen kind of evolve from that, and what strategies do you give parents when they seem like there might be something going on that way with their kids?
You know what? I'm so glad you asked me this question, because my Facebook Live of yesterday was part 2 of teens and telephones, believe it or not. So this is just a timely question. So the first thing I have to admit is both of us right now are using social media.
Right.
So social media has its good. Information-wise, I mean, and it's staying connected, and I thank God for it. I mean, I'm Nigerian, so thank God for stuff like WhatsApp and Zoom and Facebook. We can reach our friends through. However, that being said, the American Academy of Pediatrics does recommend that age of 14 is when the children should get their first cell phones. I bet you didn't know that.
I did not.
Because they're like, what? Mom,
I know all the kids today would think that they're being deprived.
I need to check my schoolwork. And so, AAP is in one department, the rest of the world is in the other department. I mean, and then we check our kids' grades on the phone. I mean, everything is pretty much online right now. And my friend was telling me, she said, so you're going to quit your day job working in a room to become a laptop. She put it somehow. So I'm going to have my laptop, and once I have my laptop, I'm good. I can work out of my laptop. So technology is good, okay? However, the studies have shown that children or teenagers who spend more than 4 to 5 hours online, on social media, 4 to 5 hours is the key word, especially girls. The study actually mentioned girls have been shown to have more anxiety, more depression, and even suicidal ideation. And we have now, or let me use the word suicidal thoughts. I know the last time I said ideation, someone said, what was that? So suicidal thoughts. So the truth is, it does have its bad, it has a lot of bad. And there's cyber sex, there's porn, there's cyberbullying, and there's apps that you can just go on there and incognito. Before your parents even knows about it, it's already happened. I mean, look at the movie 13 Reasons Why. It was an innocent photograph. It went viral because she didn't really want the picture out there. But within 13 minutes, the whole school had a copy of the picture. You know, it's like, oh my God, it's so fast the way things spread. I mean, you have to caution your kids. And so one of the things I talked about yesterday is for those of us who are kids are grown and already have cell phones, it's almost too late for us. At this point, we're just bargaining with our kids. Like, okay, please, can I have your phone? Okay, you know what? The rules are 10 o'clock. Everybody puts their phone down. Make it look like it's a joint effort. But if you're lucky, if you're one of the lucky ones whose kids don't have cell phones yet, great. Here's what you got to do. Johnny, before you get your cell phone on your 14th birthday, you're right? Mm-hmm. Here are the rules of engagement. Here's what we're going to do. You're not going to use your cell phone so-and-so time, so-and-so place. The camera of the cell phone, you have to monitor that. And I mentioned about 5 apps yesterday that parents can use for parental control of their children on the cell phone. So there are ways, there are answers out there. They are usually 2 or 3 steps ahead of us. That is true. But at least we're not out of we're not outside the horizon completely. But if you just look online, lots of resources. One of them is called Nanny nanny something. I forget.
Would you possibly, after the show, in this live, be able to drop them below in the comments?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That would be awesome.
Absolutely. I have them in my head. One of them was phone sheriff. The other one was ESET. One was nanny something, nanny net or something. But it was just that's for like one user. But there are lots of resources. I'll be glad to do that. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we can drop them below. Yeah, and I think that parents have to be so cautious, and they think sometimes that, you know, even safe havens at the library. I remember that, you know, my daughters and my kids are older now, but, you know, when I took away their phone, I didn't realize that you could go to the library and hop online and do it for free and do it online and still communicate with your friends.
Don't forget the cell phone. There's a tablet, there's a laptop, there's a desktop, there's something out there, okay? Something out there. My now 13-year-old son had a dummy cell phone until this summer. He had a dummy. I made sure he had Wi-Fi access for the rare occasion he has to call me from school. And then, of course, there's Wi-Fi at home, but he couldn't call anyone else. Like, he didn't have real phone numbers. It was just me, maybe his other mom, you know, family members. But it was a dummy for the most part. And he went for the summer with his father, and oh, well, the rest is history. But I tried to hold out as much as I could, because they were 14 when I kind of gave them cell phones, even before I knew that 14 was the age. So,
right. And I think for so many of us, our kids are...
All my friends' mothers are letting them have cell phones. Mom, you're the only one. And you just have to be steadfast and be strong, because they will
You do have to be strong. I know. Right now, we have more statistics, and we have, you know, we've gone through this now for over a decade, you know, with the kiddos, over a decade, almost 15 years now, having it, and having, you know, everything started with, what was that first one? MySpace.
Oh, God, yes.
Social media. Then it was Facebook. And so going through that, I don't think as parents, my oldest is going to be 27. And I wasn't, none of us knew. I don't even have a word for it. Like, none of us knew what it was going to be.
For you. Anything that's good, someone is going to find a way of making it bad. Any good thing, just think about it. You just name it. I don't care what it is. People will find ways of exploiting it. And now they go online and they get the kids. I watch videos online where they have, like, someone finds the child, and it's a setup, of course, and they tell them, oh, I'll come at night or whatever, and they're like, yes, and then the parents are like hiding in the van, you know, because the whole thing is set up. But just little things like that. And then it doesn't help that we as parents, I have to say, we're like, well, why didn't you pick up your phone? I called you whatever time, and I try to reach you, and make sure you let me know that you're okay. Make sure you let me know when you get there. And my middle son, he's very good at it. He'll text me and say, I'm still alive, LOL. And that's our little thing. But even the fact that he knows I expect him to say that, and then I also, he knows that when I call him, I expect him to pick up the phone. You know, so little things like that kind of, you know, it's like it becomes a catch-22. I want you to be off your phone, but Mom, you want to be able to reach me. So rules are
it becomes very confusing that way. Exactly. But if parents can hold out, or like you said, finding devices where you can just hook up to Wi-Fi for the phone call, or, you know, just utilize for that, where you're minimizing, and all those apps and those blockers, years ago, they didn't have any of those, because they've learned.
So we're catching on.
Yes.
I came up with 6 top apps yesterday that I'm going to definitely use one of them, the nanny one, and I think the phone sheriff were the 2 names that kind of stuck in my head. But there are lots of ways. There are lots of ways that we can try.
Right. Now,
but one thing I do is random checks. I do random checks. Now, I have two in college now, so it's not going to be as easy. But my baby, I still have a little hold on him. So I do random checks. Random checks work. And I do my random check while you're right there watching me. So it's not like I'm over there somewhere hiding. I don't want to lose his trust. Idea. But while he's right there with me, I'm checking his phone, and we're trying to look at, so what is this? Who is this person? What is he again? Things like that. And make it open so that the child doesn't feel like
they're holding it back, like they're hiding it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now, would there be anything else that you would say when we look at, you know, seeing our children on a daily basis, you know, depression for our teens, for our kiddos, that might be any more signs? I know you gave me a ton of great ones already, you know, so is there 1 or 2 more before we wrap up the show today? I just want to make sure that if there is any other ones on your kind of like your top list, that you've gotten the opportunity to share them.
Yeah, one of the ones that I have to mention, because I am in the LGBT community, is LGBT. If your child even ever comes out to you as a parent, you have 2 seconds to completely alienate your child or to support your child. This is something that is big. I mean, we heard about little Jamal Hines, Miles, who committed suicide a couple of weeks ago, 4 days after going to school, after telling his mom, I'm gay, I'm so happy, I want to tell my friends. And the same 9-year-old friends bullied him and told him to kill himself. And he did. It's so powerful. Did you hear about it?
I did not.
No, look it up when we're done. Jamal Miles, he's in Kansas, I think. That is so fresh in my memory. LGBT, they are out there suffering in silence. It's hard enough already that the world thinks they're freaks. The world thinks that they're everything but good, okay? Right. You, the one safe haven as the parent, if they come to you, because a lot of my patients have come out to me and I actually help. I help and I get the mom and I talk to the mom. I said, he's going to tell you something or she's going to tell you something. I need you in this space right now to promise me you're going to be supportive. No, I can't tell you what it is because I want him to tell you. And then once in a while, they've told me to tell them. And it's okay. I've had extreme reactions. I've had good, oh, it's okay. I still love him anyway. Whether they're trying to say what they think I want to hear, I don't know. But that is one thing, that the child is bullied. And even they get killed for just being who they are, daring to love someone or whatever, something that they didn't really ask for. And you know the funny thing about LGBT? It runs in the family. So every time I hear parents say, oh my God, what do you mean? I say it takes heterosexual parents to produce a homosexual child. You, as a heterosexual parent, you produce this child. So look back. Check that uncle you've always worried about, that aunt you've always thought about. Are you sure? And then it kind of helps them come to terms with it, because that's what we are as doctors and as providers. We're there to help just be the bridge. So I can't take sides, but I can also, as a child advocate, have to speak for the child. The child just told me something really major. I do not need you to be in denial. You know what I mean? And a lot of the moms tell me, oh, I've always suspected that, but I didn't know how to come out and ask them. And you know what? It's one happy family and we sing Kumbaya. So LGBT, that's one thing I forgot to mention. And we talked about bullying. We talked about family history. We talked about just the child who actually is confused a lot of times. What is this that I feel? What is this sadness that is overcoming me? And then they start cutting to maybe feel get rid of the pain. It's right. I get emotional when I talk about it because I have so many patients. So.
I know. Just in you saying that, in the weeks when we had our mental health series, I thought it was, so powerful what you just said as well, which almost brought tears to my eyes as well, is that you have 2 seconds when your kids are actually finally going to come forward to say to you what's going on with them.
Even if it's just being bullied. It doesn't have to be LGBT. It could even just be
anything.
Being bullied. Or his best friend is being bullied. Or he's been sexually molested. Or he's been sexually molested, which is something it takes. I was sexually molested when I was 9. I only told my parents at 42. 42.
How long that you kept that repressed inside?
Yes. Because they're going to find a way to say it was your fault. What were you doing in the first place? Or whatever. Right. However, but one thing about sexual molestation, less than 0.5% of children who ever voice it out are making it up. 0.5. That's like negligible. They don't make it. Right. It's just not what they're going to make up. Oh, by the way, no. If a child dares to tell you that, you better believe it. You better protect your child today, like that moment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And all of those sometimes add to those behaviors if something like that happens, and them, regressing and pulling back from others, and the depression. And so, a lot of it is all of these different outside factors. But the main thing is that when they're coming to you, for you to listen. The other thing that we talked a lot about in the last couple of weeks is, like you're saying, being open and honest and just asking the question. Sometimes we want to skirt around the subject because it's a hard subject and sugarcoat it, instead of, like you're saying with the school and saying the word suicide, instead of coming right out and saying, are you sad? Are you thinking about suicide?
Are you thinking about, exactly. Are you thinking about, okay, So how about, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Or a better way to ask is, do you feel like the world would be better off without you? So you're not really, you know what I mean? You have to find ways around it. Do you feel like the world will be better off without you? Do you feel like you'd be better off dead? You don't have to use the word. But I have a gay son, and I had to ask him. Because I knew when he was 9 months old, and I told my mother, I said, this kid, they're like, oh my God, don't say that. Don't say that. I'm like, okay, all right. But I knew. So it wasn't a big deal for me. But it's a big deal for others. And I do appreciate the fact that it's hard. But I want you guys to do is call me. I don't know. Find me. Ask me. I will help you. I do coaching. So, I mean, I will help you.
Right. And parents just being open, to listen. And what you talked about as well a little bit earlier in the show is like, it takes a village, more eyes on you. And I always say that with my own kids, being a single parent, more eyes on them, the better. So in times where I've thought my child is experiencing sadness, their behavior is changing a little bit, they're making odd behaviors. Let me tell you, it doesn't take me 5 minutes, but to call the principal, every teacher they have, email everyone and say, for whatever reason, my son or daughter is behaving a little differently. I need you to have all eyes on them, the same as I am, because you never know who's going to...
I'm so glad you brought that up. You know, I have a 20-year-old son who's at Stanford, and he came home for the summer. And last evening, we were talking about the fact that he said, Mom, I don't think you should have people ask. I said, son, you're not a parent. You don't understand. You're fighting for your kid here. I will ask whoever. And because I was talking about asking your friends, asking your kids' friends, asking your kids' classmates. He's like, my mom, once you ask them, they're going to feel like you betrayed. I said, no, son, no. This is a life and death.
Yep.
This is a life and death. And you know one thing I said, one quote that I use all the time, I say, depression for the most part is temporary. Suicide is permanent. It's always permanent. I would rather ask questions than not ask.
Right. And let your child be, if they want to be upset, But
I'm like, be upset. Yeah, that's fine.
If you're still here on this earth, that's really, Hey,
you know what? You got to be alive to be upset. So bring it. That's fine.
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, Dr. Lulu, I am so happy. We've been on for almost 45 minutes, which is awesome.
I can't believe it. You know what? I know. What is it? Time flies when you're having fun. I had so much fun. I'm so excited.
Can you just tell the folks, where they can find you if they want more information? I know you're going to drop some of those apps and links below, but what are some other ways that they can be accessible to getting information about you?
So first and foremost, my Facebook, I guess, professional page is Ask Dr. Lulu. That's on Facebook, and you have to spell out the word doctor. So Ask Doctor. As a matter of fact, a bunch of my patients told me, "Ma'am, once we type Ask Doctor, Lulu comes up right away." So I guess I'm famous. But Ask Doctor, spell it out, Lulu. Okay, Lulu. That's one on Facebook. I do every Sunday at 2 p.m. If it's 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, it's time for Ask Dr. Lulu. And I discuss topics, all kinds of topics that have to do with teenagers, not only suicide and depression. No, it's everything teen, vaccines, their siblings, telephones, dating. We're going to talk about dating. We're going to talk about all of that. We talked about how to raise well-rounded teenagers, how the teenager stays, what the things the teenagers have to do to stay well-rounded and stay productive. Right. About that also. I have a blog, my personal blog. I'm really, really proud of it. It's on www.wordsbyblackbutterfly, because I'm the black butterfly. So it's wordsbyblackbutterfly.com or just blackbutterfly.blog on WordPress. Okay?
And we'll drop the Facebook and that one below too. We'll drop that in the top.
And then I have, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and I've been
Is that all under the same, under Ask Dr. Lulu as well?
I'll put all that. And I've been featured on a few things now I'm really proud of, and they're all on my website, which is my pride and joy. Besides my children, my website is my pride and joy. So it's www.teenalive.com. Not teens, but teenalive.com. And it's still under construction. We're on the last phases of it, but I'm just so proud of it. It's a work. It's been I love it.
Yes, putting it all I know. And when you build it and you finish it, you're like, yes.
Yes. And I'm building it with my 13-year-old son. It
Oh
doesn't get
my
any
gosh.
better than that. I love that kid. He and his brothers have pitched in, but he's been the architect, he's been the engineer, he's been the builder. Love it, love it,
Oh
love
my
it. So I'm
gosh.
able to kind of have hands-on on exactly what I want, where I want it. There's been some fights, of course, naturally. He's a teenager. Mom, I've been doing this all day. And I was like, okay, I'll pay you. I don't want you to pay me. I was like, okay, well, all right. But it's been fun. It's been fun.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we will drop all those links below so you guys can all get in touch with Ask Dr. Lulu. It's great. I have tuned in for some of her Sunday shows. They are wonderful, so make sure you do so. The same. And with that, I thank you guys for spending the last about hour with us this afternoon here on the On Air Advocate. If you want any more information about the On Air Advocate or any of our other services, please head on over to onairadvocate.com and you can find them all right there. Also, if you'd like to drive our private community, join, not drive. It must be Monday. Is it Monday?
Yes.
Join our private community. You can hop right up to the top of this Facebook page, hit the blue button that says visit group and request to be a part of it. And that is where we intermingle and chat all of the time. So on that, you all have a fabulous start to your week, a motivated Monday, get stuff done. And we'll be talking again soon. Again,
Write a
Dr.
list.
Lulu.
Write a list. If you write a list, you never go wrong. Write a list of
Oh,
everything you
yes.
need to do. And then check it up. That's what I do. I stay writing lists. Everywhere I stay writing lists.
Post-it notes and lists.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much. You guys all have a blessed day. Bye-bye.